Well, you know, one of the reasons I do this outside the pottery and not inside of the pottery is because plaster, you've got to be very, very careful with plaster that it doesn't get into the clay. If you get any plaster at all contaminating your clay, you're going to have awful problems and blowouts and things like that. So you've really got to be very, very clinically clean when working with this plaster of Paris, that we don't use it preferably inside the studio itself. No matter how careful I am, I always seem to manage to get some plaster into the clay. It's a real pain. You know, you've almost got to use an apron that you only use for plaster, because if you use your pottery apron and you get plaster on it, of course, then the next time you go on the wheel, a little bit of the plaster falls off into the tray and so on. And in fact, there's a lot to be said probably for not using plaster at all in the pottery. Another way of doing similar what I'm doing here is to you can actually make thick clay bats. Just make sure they're thoroughly dried out and bisque fire them, not too high temperature bisque, so they're more absorbent, and use those. It's probably a better way around and will prevent you getting plaster into your clay. I mean, it just gets everywhere. It really does. You know, it gets on your hands, on your apron, it gets on your shoes, it just contaminates. Anyway, something else I just thought I'd show you what I'm doing. Let's bring the camera inside the studio here. How's our battery? I hope the battery's... So I'm just wandering in here because I just wanted to show you something that I have been doing. I've been working here at the table. Let me just pull the camera back more over this way. A bit at an angle. Yeah. So yeah, I've been working over there at the table, as you can see, with a piece of wood, and because I'm making a sign here that's going to go outside of the showroom or the gallery. Let me just bring it here for you again. Actually, now I've used stencils. In this case, I use these because although a nice sign written done by hand with a paintbrush and everything, but it's not always that easy to do if you're not really practiced at it. So what I decided to do was use stencils and use a nice piece of wood. So I'm at the stage now where I'm ready to actually take the masking away from the sign. See what it looks like. I've got to do a little bit of cleaning up. I'm just showing you this because maybe you're somebody who let's see if I stand back here, if I go over the other side of the room and hold up the sign for you all to see. Yeah, well, it needs a bit of clearing. It needs a little bit of cleaning up here between the letters where the stencils have been. But it's not too bad. It's actually quite a nice piece of wood. Very cheap and cheerful, you know. Cheap and cheerful. Gallery. Yeah, so I'm going to use some of this stuff, and we're going to just really I suppose the key to doing this is to get it nicely set up to begin with. Get everything straight, all the letters, and okay. Let's have a look. Then I'm going to use some of this on the sign. On the wood here. So. You see, as potters, we're not only involved in making pots, are we? We're involved in doing a lot of different things, which makes it interesting, like making signposts, and some of the same skills that we use when we decorate pots. You know, we can transfer or translate, as it were, over to working with a bit of wood and trying. It's not always easy, is it, working with a different medium, but yeah, well, I know the sign could look better. I know the sign could look better. You know, and the trouble with these stencils is, you know, you've got these gaps here. Well, with a little bit of help from a paintbrush, I can fill this in, you see, just here, and you won't know the difference. Okay, we're having a workshop here on June 18th and 19th. It wasn't scheduled on my on my website, but we've decided to add one because we had a cancellation. I was going to be going over to Lancaster Way to do a workshop, but it was a bit too close to us here, and I think people felt that they would rather come here. Well, that is true. We are close, or not so far. So June 18th and 19th, where we've got 5 free spaces, and we're going to run a workshop here in Williamsburg, Pennsylvania. So if you're free and you'd like to come along, and go to my website, simonleachpottery.com, and you'll get the details from there, and you can write to us. Okay? All right, well, what more can I say? Keep practicing. See you.